Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Be a Better You podcast. I am your host and subconscious reprogramming expert, Allison K. Dagney. I am also a survivor of 20 years of emotional and narcissistic abuse, and I am here to help you with all things healing and emotional abuse recovery. Now, today we're going to be talking about one of the heaviest self-blaming thoughts that survivors carry, and this is, I should have seen the signs. And this one belief is actually what keeps so many people stuck in shame. But the truth is, you were not supposed to see the signs, and I'm going to tell you why in this episode. Now, the reason why this is so important, I had an experience with this myself, and this was one of the very first things that I repeated in my mind over and over again, that, man, I should have seen the signs. Because when you get out of the emotional abusive situation, you're separated from the abuser, you're no contact or whatever, you start reflecting and you start looking back at what happened. And you have these memories pop up and you have these things that won't let go in your mind. And you start to think about, wow, like, that was a clear sign. I can't believe I didn't see that. Wow, look at this. I can't believe that I didn't take that more seriously. Wow, look at what he said and look how I ignored it, right? So I understand this very, very well because I also thought this same thing. I should have seen the signs. Now, I do want to explain to you why survivors think they should have known. This is important because there are things that are going to come up in life that reinforce this idea that you as a survivor somehow failed at protecting yourself. These would be things like from your culture. These could be things from your friends, family members, your society, right? People say things like, well, there were red flags. Oh, well, you should have seen the signs. Oh, well, you should have known better, right? And this is something that when we are experiencing abuse, we are inside the storm. We can't see what's happening outside. So when this thing comes up like, oh, they should have known, or you should have known, or you should have seen the flags, right? This often comes from these narratives from our culture, our society, and the people around us, and the things that they're saying. And so then we start beating ourselves up more and more, right? We already went through the abuse and now we're out and now we're beating ourselves up more. So here's the truth. Abusers are calculating. They are strategic. They are intentional about the things that they do. They hide the signs. They manipulate. They lie. They love bomb. They groom. They do all of these things that make it difficult to see the red flags. Okay? You may be stuck in cognitive dissonance because you've got these two opposing thoughts like, oh, they love me, but oh, they mistreat me. Oh, they treat me great, but oh, they're in a bad mood, right? So here are some examples that will help you understand this. At first, when you're in a relationship with someone who is abusive, maybe they were very complimentary of you, gave you a lot of attention, put you on a pedestal, right? How would you see that as dangerous? How could you? It feels like love. It feels kind. It feels good. But this is often what happens in the beginning, because if people showed up for us in abusive ways the first time we met them, we would never hang out with them again, right? They have to hook you in. It might be something like when your partner got jealous. Maybe it felt really flattering to you. Maybe you made that mean that they really cared about you. Not a warning sign. Maybe you thought, oh, well, they really, really value me and they really are protective of me, when really it was something more nefarious, the jealousy, right? But we all know love is not jealous. Okay? When the person maybe was criticizing you, but was saying it in a way that was like, well, I just want what's best for you, or I know what's best for you, but, like kind of dressing it up that way when it was really criticism. So inside my online community, Radiate and Rise, women say a lot of times, like, looking back, the signs were so obvious. And I felt like that too. And hindsight is different than lived experience. But you have to remember that when you're in the middle of it, it's really a lot harder to see what's happening. And that's the scary part. But once you see and once you're out, it doesn't really do you any good to beat yourself up for not seeing it when you were there, right? I didn't even know emotional abuse was a thing. I didn't even know what narcissism was until someone told me, right? And then I was able to plan my escape. But when you're in the midst of it, and if you don't have the information, you may be just wishing and hoping that it was love. And maybe you're stuck in these like mind battles where one side of you is saying they love me and one side of you is saying they don't. And it's very confusing to be in this state of mind. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about the brain science on this, why you couldn't actually see. And the reason why is because abuse is kind of disorienting you because it goes against your natural wiring. So as humans, we're wired to trust. We're wired to attach and want love and connection and community with others. This is part of our survival. This is part of how we survived, right? If you didn't have a tribe, you might die, right? That's how it was years ago. Like, we had to have a tribe or we might die. We wouldn't have all of the safety and support and resources and people sharing food and things like that. But cognitive dissonance is a real thing, and your brain is going to choose whatever explanation it is that keeps you feeling safe at the time, right? So if somebody is mistreating you and is abusive towards you, you may chalk that up to, oh, well, they're just stressed, or they just had a bad day, or they had a bad childhood, or, whatever, like you insert. Okay. So your brain is going to try to go for the thing that's going to keep you feeling the most safe. If you have to go with he's abusive, your body, your nervous system might not be able to handle that. So you're going to explain it away to something else. Okay. One of my clients, I'll just tell you this story. She thought that every argument that she got into with her ex was her fault. One, because he convinced her that it was, and I can raise my hand and say, I know what that's like. And of course, she wasn't labeling that as abuse because what was it presented as? She's too sensitive. She's too dramatic. She's too emotional. She's got PMS. She's got PMDD. She's crazy, like whatever, right? So she would blame herself. Again, me, my hand is up. One of my clients told me this, and I was like nodding my head. Yes, same. Exactly, right? So your brain, again, is going to start believing whatever you tell it. So as someone is conditioning you and making you think that it's your fault, and every single time you get into a fight or an argument, it's because of something you did, right? You're too sensitive, you're too this, that, whatever, right? Then all of a sudden your brain is going to see that and start looking for more of it. And it's going to believe whatever you tell it. So the seed was planted, you were conditioned, and then you start taking that on yourself. And you're like, yep, it's my fault. Yep, I'm crazy. I used to tell doctors and therapists, yeah, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm just so crazy. And like, I'm just so emotional. I wrote this in my book too. But that wasn't true. It was something that someone else had planted inside my mind. And for me, because I didn't know what was actually happening, right? I started to take that on as a reality. So of course I couldn't see. I was literally blinding myself, partly because of what my husband at the time was saying to me and making me believe. But here's the thing. I wasn't blind. You weren't blind. You were normal, but you were in an abnormal situation. You are normal. You are just not experiencing a normal thing, right? So that makes a lot of sense why you couldn't see. Why you couldn't see isn't because you were blind. It's because you were experiencing something that was traumatizing you, and your mind was trying to make sense of it and help you feel safe. So if you're like, oh my gosh, like, yes, this sounds similar to me, I understand this, I have a quiz on my website where you can go in there and you can answer questions to figure out what your subconscious beliefs are, and then it'll help you start to see the patterns that you couldn't have possibly seen in the moment. And then after you send it in, I go in there and I write responses to all of your beliefs. And I help you see shifts in that. And I personally do that. So that's why it takes me about 48 hours to get back. But if you want to do that, you can go to my website, www.radiateNrise, the letter N, rise.com. And and it's not at the top, but if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see the beliefs quiz, and it's totally free. And you can go in there and just pop it in. There is a section at the bottom I'd highly recommend. It says, is there any other things that you're thinking about? That's going to be like obviously more tailored towards you. So if there are other things that come up for you, then fill that part in, and then I will address that for you too. Now, I also want to talk about reframing the belief that I should have seen the signs, okay? And we're going to get into that. So if you have a pen and paper, maybe grab that if you're not driving or on a walk, and I will help you reframe this. So what we have to do here is we have to flip the script. This is the kind of thing I do with my clients in my one-on-one emotional healing mastery program. It's a 16-week program, and we meet on a Zoom call for an hour once a week, and then I support you in between through Voxer, which is my voice and text support. And really, it's not about spotting the red flags faster, right? Because of course, you probably can do that now, right? You get into a new relationship, and now you know what those red flags are. Now you're more likely to say, not going to go on a date with this person again, or, oh, I don't want to be friends with that person, right? It's not as much about that, because I think you probably know what the red flags are now. It's more about shifting the beliefs that keep you blaming yourself, and shifting your beliefs about your self-worth, and tolerating things that maybe aren't good for you. So instead of saying, I should have seen the signs, or I missed the signs, or things like that, maybe start to think about it in a little different way, right? These signs were hidden from you on purpose, right? Like, I use this example of the elderly. The elderly aren't as familiar or used to dealing with technology or scams. And scams are so big right now. People will text just any phone number that they can find, and they'll pretend to be someone. They'll ask for you to click a link. They've got a hold of your phone now, or your Instagram account, or whatever, right? There's a lot of people who are good people who want to see the good in others, and especially like people who aren't, up on technology and things like that, elderly folks, and they get taken. They get taken for their money. They get their identities stolen. They get their bank accounts, money taken from them, all these kinds of things, right? And you could say, oh, well, you should have seen the signs. Oh, you should have known better. Oh, you should have da-da-da. Like, they just didn't. They just didn't. And the person who was trying to steal from them was doing it on purpose, maliciously, hiding these things, being sneaky, being manipulative, like trying on purpose to hide those things, to hide the truth so that they can get what they want. And this is no different from an abuser doing those things to you, right? It was hidden from you on purpose. It was calculating. It was deliberate to keep you in the dark, right? And instead of saying things like, because this comes up too, I was so naive, or, I should have been more aware, different things like that. Give yourself a little compassion. Give yourself a little grace, right? I was a loving person. I was hopeful. I was looking for the best. That's how I was raised. Most people are good, right? Thinking and believing those things, right? Those aren't flaws of yours. They're strengths. They're wonderful things. It got exploited by someone else. That's the flaw. The flaw is that someone else exploited you. Your loving, your caring, your kindness, your strengths. Right? Now you get to learn from that, and I hope you do. But beating yourself up over it isn't going to change the past. Isn't going to make anything better. So what are 3 ways, write this down, that your kindness, your trust, or your love was exploited, but aren't actually weaknesses? So think about that and give yourself some compassion and grace to reflect and know that those are wonderful things. You can be both. You can be kind, trusting, loving, caring, see the good in people, and still be discerning, still be aware, still see the red flags, right? Maybe you couldn't have done that back then, but you're moving forward with new information now, and now you can. And this, again, is the kind of deep subconscious reprogramming work we do together in my one-on-one programs, right? Because I want to help you so that you stop blaming yourself and you can actually move forward with peace and confidence. All right, so if you've carried these thoughts that you should have seen the signs, please hear me loud and clear. You were not meant to. You were meant to live. You were meant to love. You were meant to be you. You were meant to be hopeful, right? These are wonderful things. And the responsibility of what happened to you is 100% on the abuser. That is so important for you to know. You are an amazing human being. You are doing your best. You are trying to make things work. You are trying to look for the good in others. You couldn't have seen the signs. You were inside of the storm. You didn't know what was going on outside. You couldn't have known, right? Now, some people might say, well, I did see the signs and I ignored the signs. And if this is you, I want you to know there's a reason that you did, okay? And I'm not trying to excuse away anything. What I'm telling you this for is because everything that you believe, everything that you store in your subconscious mind becomes a blueprint for how you feel and how you show up in the world. So if you have these beliefs about, well, I'm stupid because I saw the signs and I should have listened, or, I knew what I was getting into and I ignored it, so I'm deserving of this, right? That is the thing that we've got to unpack. That is a totally different podcast episode. That's a totally different thing. Here, I'm talking about right now, in this moment, those of you who've thought, I should have seen the signs, and looking back, you're like, wow, and you can connect the dots. You shouldn't have and you couldn't have, okay? The other things, if that's coming up for you, hit me up. We'll have a 30-minute free root cause call and we can talk about those things. Well, either way you can, but if that's something that you want help addressing, I'm happy to do that. Typically, what's going on a subconscious level is we just keep repeating these same patterns of abuse onto ourselves after we've already gotten out. So we don't want to do that because there's no room for healing there. If this episode has resonated with you, one thing you can do is you can start by downloading my Letting Go booklet. It's $7.77. It's on my website, right there on the front page. All proceeds of this, every single dime, penny, goes to a local survivor center called the Ion Center in my community. And it's a really gentle but powerful way to release this exact kind of self-blame that you might be experiencing. So, like I said, go get it. All the proceeds are going to be donated. So you get the healing and they get the healing too. Next time on the next episode, we're going to be talking about another big one. So stay tuned for that, is why you couldn't have known better. Thank you again for tuning in, and I will talk to you next week.